The Divine Grace of our Children of Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This Founder Acharya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Founder Acharya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. To Lila Krishna Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Kacharya Asakara Sri Shriman Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Ramacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Premanandi. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, and Srila Prabhupada. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Additional Pastimes. Return to America. That's the name of this chapter. Return to America. One morning, a car was parked near where they walked, and seated in the driver's seat was a dejected-looking man who sat slumped over with a long, drawn, unhappy face. Day after day, this car appeared there, and the man sat unhappily while the devotees walked past in the company of Srila Prabhupada. Finally, after about a week, Prabhupada one day broke away from the group of devotees and approached the man's car. The car window was rolled up, but on seeing Prabhupada, the man rolled down the window. Prabhupada greeted him, "Good morning." The man smiled, happy to see Prabhupada, as if he had never noticed Prabhupada and the devotees walking by day after day. Something new?
Yeah.
Thank you. Prabhupada then rejoined his disciples and continued walking. They looked back and saw that the deep unhappiness in the man's face had vanished and he appeared happier. They did not see him anymore in the morning walks. Among themselves, the devotees discussed these things or kept the impressions privately in their hearts. After a little incident like that of the man sitting slumped in his car, they were even more convinced that Swamiji had the power and ability to make people happy, and that he really wanted to do it. One morning, Prabhupada arrived in the park, stepped out of his car, and waited for the devotees who had come in another car to join him. Lilavati had difficulty getting out of the car because she had her baby, Subhadra, and a carrier on her back. When she finally did get out of the car, Prabhupada turned and laughed at her, saying, "Ah, burden of affection." "Yes, Swamiji," Lilavati replied. They all began to walk together along the path. "So there are two ways to carry a baby," Prabhupada said, tapping his cane on the ground in time with his regular stride. "There is the monkey way and the cat way. Do you know this?" "No, Swamiji," said Lilavati. "Well, which way do you think is better?" Prabhupada asked. "The monkey way or the cat way?" She couldn't understand or imagine what he meant. Prabhupada continued, "The monkey baby climbs on the back of the mother and holds on, and this is the way he travels. And the kitten is carried in the teeth of the mother. So which is better?" Lilavati could still not understand which way could be better. They both sounded very difficult to her. "Well," Prabhupada said, "the monkey baby is very small and very weak, and he is holding on to the mother by his own strength. But the kitten is being supported by the strength of the mother. So which way do you think is better?" And then she understood. The cat way is better. "Yes," Prabhupada said, "that is the difference between the yogi and the devotee. The yogi is trying to climb on the back of the absolute truth by his own strength, but he is very weak, so he will fall. But a devotee, he cries out for Krishna. And as he spoke the word Krishna, Prabhupada held his arms up high and looked up at the clear morning sky. A devotee cries out for Krishna, and Krishna picks him up. Another time, a devotee picked a pretty bluish-colored flower and handed it to Prabhupada. Prabhupada took it, smelled it, then held it far away and looking at it, saying, "Oh, this is like a beautiful man without any qualifications." He then tossed it away. It had no aroma. Upendra liked to ask Swamiji questions on the morning walks. "Swamiji," Upendra asked, "what does the spiritual master or pure devotee see as he walks through the park?" "He sees Krishna," Prabhupada replied. "He thinks that these are Krishna's trees and this is Krishna's house. He sees everything as belonging to the Supreme Lord." "But if Krishna is everywhere," Upendra pursued, "does the pure devotee see Krishna on the wall, on the right, and then the wall on the left, or in the corner, or in between every atom? Does he see one form of Krishna merge into another? Where does one form of Krishna begin and take off from the other form?" "No, it is not like that," Prabhupada said. "Do you see my spectacles?" "Yes," said Upendra. "So whose spectacles are they?" Prabhupada asked. "They're yours." Prabhupada pointed to his shoes. "And what is that?" "Those are your shoes," said Upendra. "Yes," Prabhupada said. "Similarly, a pure devotee sees Krishna like that. Everything is Krishna's. This is how he sees Krishna everywhere." Near the end of the walk, when Prabhupada had answered many questions, Upendra asked again, "Swamiji, you've spoken to us so much, but I forgot most of it. If a devotee becomes Krishna conscious, will he remember everything the spiritual master says?" "Yes," Prabhupada replied. "It is all there. Not only that, but when a person becomes Krishna conscious, he will be able to see his relationship with Krishna." Srila Prabhupada ki. Has everyone here read Nectar of Devotion? No? Not yet? You should add to the Bhagavad Gita class 10 minutes of Nectar of Devotion. That was Prabhupada's program. Nectar of Devotion and Bhagavad Gita. So there's many reasons why Prabhupada coupled certain things together. As you're reading, you're advancing, and Nectar of Devotion is giving you additional information how to implement the Bhagavad Gita's lessons. So Nectar of Devotion is very important. And just like we were reading about Prabhupada saying that this flower with no aroma is like a gentleman with no qualifications. So one time on Henry Street, new devotees, they were given chance to do some services just like you're all doing, making up the arti tray, doing things like that. So I was making up the Tulsi arti tray. And a Tulsi arti tray is not very sophisticated. I mean, in a sense, it's very simple. You know, you're not doing water conch, you're just flour, incense, ghee. So I was selecting the flour, and just like we have many flowers, all those buckets there inside the pujari, you see so many flowers. I want to pick out a nice flower for Tulsi. So I had just read in the Nectar Devotion that you cannot offer a flower without any aroma. So I started checking every flower for aroma, which you cannot do. I mean, as a neophyte, you don't know this. I'm reading Nectar Devotion. It's very clear. Cannot offer a flower without aroma. So I'm picking this flower, putting it back, picking another flower, putting it back. Nothing had aroma. So then I went into, like we didn't have a big refrigerator. We had a small refrigerator. And in that, only the most expensive flowers were kept. Gardenias, orchids, things like that. So just as I had picked up, and the orchids used to come in test tubes, because to keep them fresh, the orchid has the stem inside its own test tube. Everybody knows what a test tube is, right? All these sophisticated college graduates. So I just picked up this orchid, and just putting it to my nose, and all of a sudden I heard this screaming. Says, "What are you doing?" And I was frozen. And it was one of the head pujaris. There was Mother Shilavati and then Mother Arodra. She was very strict. She's screaming, "What are you doing?" So I immediately said, "It says in the Nectar of Devotion, you cannot offer a flower without aroma." And she screamed back, "It's Kali Yuga." The flowers don't have aroma. So of course, all these flowers that I'm smelling can't be offered. Anyway, she let it go. She understood I'm just a new devotee making the tray. She didn't get it. But these things, they're there, and we have to understand according to time and circumstance. So what does it says in Bhagavad Gita, the 10th chapter, and purport, the 4th and 5th verse? Intelligence means to analyze things in their proper perspective. So there has to be the perspective. So Bhagavad Gita and nurture devotion. These two things go hand in hand. Because you can very clearly get a picture, and you won't make this mistake that neophytes make. So many different things are there that are not applicable. Like this. Sri Shivada Govinda Dev Ki Jai. And so many beautiful flowers. Right? So don't smell the flowers before they're offered. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's always helpful when they put the markers back in the book. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 29th chapter, text 33. Chapter titled Explanation of Devotional Service. Are we in the right place? Can you confirm? Or is it text 39? 39, right? Okay. 33 is what we did last week, what I did last week. So text 39, 3:29:39. Nachasya kaschid dayato. Nothing there. Nachasya kaschid dayato. Na dvesho na cha bandavaha. Na dvesho na cha bandavaha. Avasatya pramattoso. Avasatya pramattoso. Pramatang janam antakrit. Pramatang janam antakrit. Pramatang janam antakrit. We're almost there, right? Okay, please chant. Na tasya kaschid dayato. Na dvesho na cha bandavaha. Avasatya pramattoso. Pramatang janamantakrit. Pramatang janamantakrit. Nachasya kaschid dayato. Na dvesya na cha bandavaha. Avasatya pramattoso. Pramatang janamantakrit. Nachasya kaschid dayato. Na dvesya na cha bandavaha. Avasatya pramattoso. Pramatang janamantakrit. Nachasya kaschid dayato. Na dvesho na cha bandavaha. Avasatya pramattoso. Pramatang janamantakrit. Anyone else, men? na tasya kasya dayato, na dvesho na cha bandavaha, avasatya pramato so, pramatang janamanta krit. Ladies. Na tasya kasya dayato, na dvesho na cha bandavaha, avasadya pramato so, pramatang janamanta krit, na tasya kasya dayato, na dvesho na cha bandavaha, avasatya pramato so, pramatang janamanta krit, na, not, cha, and, asya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, kashchit, anyone, dayataha, dear, na, not, dveshaha, enemy, na, not, cha, and, bandavaha, friend, avishati, approaches, apramatak, attentive, aso, pramatam, inattentive, janam, persons, antakrit, the destroyer. Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone his enemy or friend. But he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have. Please repeat. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Nor is anyone his enemy or friend.
Nor is anyone his enemy or friend.
But he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have. Purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Forgetfulness of one's relationship with Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of one's repeated birth and death. A living entity is as eternal as the Supreme Lord, but due to his forgetfulness, he is put into this material nature and transmigrates from one body to another. And when the body is destroyed, he thinks that he is also destroyed. Actually, this forgetfulness of his relationship with Lord Vishnu is the cause of his destruction. Anyone who revives his consciousness of the original relationship receives inspiration from the Lord. This does not mean that the Lord is someone's enemy and someone else's friend. He helps everyone. One who is not bewildered by the influence of material energy is saved, and one who is bewildered is destroyed. It is said, therefore, Haring bina nasritim taranti. No one can be saved from the repetition of birth and death without the help of the Supreme Lord. It is therefore the duty of all living entities to take shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu and thus save themselves from the cycle of birth and death. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gananjana Svataya Chakshur Mritamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Panghum Lankayate Gurum Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatahanam. So this interesting, the chapter is titled Explanation of Devotional Service. And Krishna is giving a different perspective. Yeah, it says that no one is his enemy or friend, but he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him. So this is the essence of devotional service. Anyabhilasata sunyam jnana karma dinavatam. that one has to arrange his activities in such a way that somehow or other he is always engaged, either in thinking, feeling, or acting on Krishna's behalf. This is the secret of success in devotional life, to always be engaged. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantasthadu devata. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination. It doesn't say just do what you like, whenever you like, to the extent that you like. No. Yayatama prapadyante. As you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. It couldn't be more simple in concept. So what is the difficulty? Why do we have such a hard time to surrender? Why is our mind always giving so many excuses? Why I can't do it, I have to do this, I have to do that. When the opportunity arises, just like Arjuna, he has no place to go. He's on the battlefield, on a chariot with Krishna. He can't say, I'm going to go think about this. He doesn't say, that, yes, I've heard everything you said, and now I'm just going to think about this for a little while. No, it's very clear that there's a conclusion. That must be confirmed, right? That there has to be a conclusion. And the conclusion is that, what does Prabhupada say? Chant Hare Krishna and fight. Just fight. So who are we fighting? We're not going out to the street and picking fights with the common people. That means we're fighting the internal battle. Right? The mind is the best friend or the worst enemy. So this is our little internal struggle. It's not an allegory. It's not like the Mayavadis say that, Arjuna, the Pandavas are the five senses, and Arjuna represents the false ego. They have so many twisted ways. This is because the impersonalists cannot accept that Krishna is a person, that God is a person. That's their complete, what can you say, destruction of spiritual life. They can no progress whatsoever. They only fall down again and again and remain this way. It's very unfortunate. That's why this Mayavadi philosophy is so dangerous. Just a little contamination, just like an infection. We think, what is this infection? What is this germ? It's insignificant germ, but somehow this germ, you acquire this infection, and your whole body is up to the point of death, depending on the potency of that particular germ. Right? Who can imagine? Such a small thing. And compared to our self, our bodies, it seems, how could this happen? But yes. Everything has some specific potency. And these potencies are given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This germ did not develop some mechanistic defense function that somehow or other, no, it's indiscriminate. Indiscriminate. Equal opportunity, infective entity. So Mayavad is like that also. You go to some place and you hear something like that, you have to immediately leave. Immediately. You just get up and walk out. Just like if you walked into a situation where you could apprehend danger and you feel it, you don't stay in that place, you leave. So we have to become very, how can you say, sensitive to any adulteration of the philosophy. Because even in the so-called devotional circles, at times you will hear someone giving some Mayavad concept, right? That the living entity can enjoy on an equal level with God. No, it cannot. Living entity is always in a subordinate position. Just like the servant to the king. The king is eating opulently, so the servant eats opulently, but the servant never becomes the king. The distinction always remains. Yes, we enjoy everything that's there. You go to the spiritual world, so much, unlimited. No one can calculate. No one can even imagine that level of enjoyment. We can somehow hear from our preceptors to some extent what that internal pleasure is. This is not to be speculated upon. But yes, we can appreciate that. Look at these great souls who have followed this path. Where Rupa Nugas, right? So these great souls, very highly advanced scholars, not just some bums from the Bowery like us. They became convinced, of this philosophy by hearing from a superior person, of course, actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so if such persons can be converted simply by hearing, then this process is understood to be perfect. It's just like if you want to experiment with something, you look at the different papers. They have so many research papers and people are giving peer reviews, and there's all this documentation, and then at a certain point it's accepted as scientific fact. So we have so much in our, by our Mahajans, by their mercy. We have all these conclusions without any effort, this coming down in this particular descending process. We don't have to make any extra endeavor, but we have to be humble. You have to calculate, why would I ignore information coming from such great souls as the Goswamis or any of the other previous acharyas? Who are we compared to them? But yet still some people will think, no, I need to do further analysis and experimentation. But everything is there automatically. And that's the test of the efficacy, that if you take the medicine, like what is that? Pure devotional service relieves one from all material distress. So when you read the Nectar Devotion, you come across this, you wonder, how is this possible? But as soon as you engage in devotional service, this is the first symptom. Relief from all material distress. Just like Prabhupada there on that walk, and the devotees were speculating that Prabhupada just went and said good morning to this person. And for days he's sitting in the car, windows rolled up, in complete depression. And as soon as Prabhupada greeted him, he was immediately relieved, because what is Srila Prabhupada? He's the personification of the nectar of devotion. He embodies every single quality of a devotee. There's 26 qualities. And all of these qualities are present in the pure devotee. And so to that extent, therefore, we were affected by Prabhupada's presence. This is a unique opportunity. So many books written about devotees' experiences with Srila Prabhupada. Because of the enormity of the impact that he had individually and collectively. So this, you can just imagine that we're in contact with a pure devotee. We have Prabhupada's books, we have his lectures, we have his instructions. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and a sincere follower lives with him. This is the essence. It's not, we don't have to make any adjustment. Someone says, oh, time, place, and circumstance, desha, kala, patra. We have to be very careful with this. Who is the person who can do that? This is in the realm of those persons who are already purified of their material anarthas. Sarvapati vinir muktam tat parattvena nirmalam. You can see that they're engaged full time. Every sense is engaged in Krishna service. Every sense, all the time. So we're fortunate to have the examples of these pure devotees. And then we can see, and therefore we can understand, yes, I can listen to this person. Because of the way, and it says, how does he speak? when we hear Srila Prabhupada speak like that, such a commanding authority. Because he's completely convinced, he knows. Still, some people, after many years of devotional service, because they may remain on the neophyte platform, they can be persuaded that maybe Krishna is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, somehow or other it comes to pass that I can't follow this process because it interferes with my material desires. I want to become a famous musician or a famous something. Choose whichever fame you're at. That this profit, distinction, adoration, and especially when it's all condensed, it becomes ambition. And this ambition, this is the ruination of someone's devotional creeper. That he has some ambition to be what? To be something other than das, anudas. Even if he's thinking, I'll become sannyas or I'll become guru. What is the last snare of Maya? If you can think like this, then what is the last concept? Gradually you'll think, yes, I'll become God. So therefore, Prabhupada kicked out, when the Nectar Devotion came out, there was some misunderstanding. And Prabhupada's, 3 of his most senior men fell into this misconception that Prabhupada is God. You know, we understand that there's a term, Shakti-Avesh Avatar, someone who embodies the qualities. You know, they're empowered. But they were thinking, no, Krishna is God. So why did Prabhupada remove them from the society? He sent them outside. He said, because then everyone will think that I will become God. If you can think that Prabhupada is God, then what's to stop me when I become so-called guru? Then I'm also God. So this is that impersonalist contamination that's there. So what is that? Free from previous misconceptions and mental speculation. What's that verse? Nirvara sarva bhuteshu yasamat eti pandava. And a friend to every living entity. What's the beginning? Come on. Oh, you great stalwart Bhakti Shastri. That's okay. We'll all remember it after we leave class. But the basic thing is that free from previous sinful activity, material misconceptions, and mental speculation. It's not yesham twantagatam papam. That's another one. But still, we have to be free from sinful activity. So how can one be thinking that he can become God when he's fully, suffering from all of his previous karmic reactions? So we have to, so Prabhupada, he sent them away. He told them just go out and do some preaching. And they ended up opening some centers, very important centers. Which was one of those centers? You know? Gainesville. Started preaching in Gainesville. But that's okay, these things are there. There's a little too much. Give it to some worthy person. And then eventually they corrected and they came back. They stopped preaching because they were telling everybody Prabhupada is God. Dr. Ryan can hardly imagine, right? Yeah, so that's it. So such a seemingly innocuous misconception could bring down the entire society. And so when you have something like that in a situation, just like if you have a diseased limb on a tree, you have to prune it. Otherwise, the disease will spread to the rest of the tree. So Prabhupada, even though these are very dear disciples, immediately cut. Very important. Not sentimental. You have to be careful. Sentimentalism is not meant. The first thing is to protect the society. We're just like soldiers in a battle. So many are expected to die. They're expendable. But there's a mission that has to be accomplished. So we have to encourage everyone to adopt this self-criticism. That they have to self-examination. We call it self-realization. What does self-realization mean? It means I understand that I'm a conditioned soul, and I have so many faults, and I need to clear these faults. That's that verse. Sarva pari vinamuktam. Sarva upadi. Unwanted things. All these things have to be kicked out. And we can all examine ourselves. Have I become free from this material contamination? So this is, and sometimes we understand, when we go to sleep and we dream, and those dreams are not exactly devotional in nature. So this is a reflection of the mental condition. Just imagine if you pass away in your sleep, people think, oh, he passed away peacefully in his sleep. What was he thinking? Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. There's nothing peaceful about dreaming about some material situation, and then you take birth again in the material world. That's why devotees are very keen. They always keep, some kirtan is going on, devotee who was just here, who was our godbrother, who Sevananda. So, because he was getting close, and he had to keep Prabhupada's chanting on all the time, because you don't know where the mind is at that stage. When he's awake, he's fully Krishna conscious. When you go to sleep, what happens? So we have to always be careful. So many devotees sleep with the tape of Prabhupada chanting. Why not? Better safe than sorry, right? In the old temple in 55th Street, we had Prabhupada playing throughout the entire temple because we had a PA system. Everybody know what a PA system means? Public announcement. PA means public announcement. So every speaker and every hallway was wired for sound. Not every speaker, every room had a speaker in it, so that you could technically press a button and communicate with one room. Yeah, that was it, because it was a hospital basically. It was a retirement home for Catholic charities, retired and aging and infirm nuns and priests. And it was perfect for devotees because there were these nice small rooms. 2 devotees could be comfortable in them. And they're very nice to try. Every room had a sink. Not a bathroom, but every room had a sink. So it was very perfect for devotees. When we found this building, we thought this is a great building. Should never have been sold, but that's another story. But there were many ghosts in that building. Why? Because these people are dying in situations where they have no idea what's going on. So when the soul is bewildered, he doesn't know that it's time to leave. He gets stuck sometimes. And so these ghosts are hanging around. And what happens? A ghost, he cannot leave that place. That's why they call it a haunted house. Why is it haunted? Why doesn't the ghost just leave? Go someplace else? Because he cannot. He's stuck in that place. And that's why he tries to inhabit another body. Possession. They have this concept, even the Christians have this concept of possession. And they go through this whole exorcism. So the ghost wants to try to get you into you so he can go someplace else. Because he can't go. His subtle body is bound to that location. But if he captures you, he goes wherever. So there's many stories like this. You don't have to, just a simple understanding. We're very fortunate that this building was not such a place. There were so many ghosts in 55th Street because so many people died there. Over 100 years, people dying in that building. Such a scary place at times. Those are different times. I could tell stories about that another time. When we first bought the building, it would have been abandoned for years. And the watchman, even the watchman, because when you have an old school, now it's all electronic. Watchman would carry this thing. It looks like a canteen. Everybody know what a canteen is? Like carrying a tiffin on a strap. It just looks round, and in it, and he has a key. And in every floor, there are called watch stations. And in that watch station, there's a key. And each key is different. And when he would take that key, he puts it into this round thing, and he turns it. And it shows that he's been to that watch station. At the end of the day, he turns in that canister, and the supervisor in charge knows that, yes, he did his rounds. Wasn't just sitting down on the bottom floor of the building. He had to go to every single floor and every single watch station on that floor. But when we went there, the watchman said, I don't go around. This place is totally haunted. He told us. Totally haunted. He was afraid to go alone in that building. Anyway, so many things like that. But anyway, we just did what they call boot puja. Prabhupada said, yes, just do boot puja. And we did Sankirtan on every floor. You burn incense, you blow the conch, You make big kirtan sound, you chase the ghosts. And the ghosts don't go. Remember, they can't leave the building. But they kind of like go into their little recesses and wait for some victim, some weak person. And then they jump on him. But we would play Prabhupada all the time, all night long. But there are some places, like I said, if they forgot to play Prabhupada at night, more ghosts would come out. So some people don't believe in ghosts, but yes, ghosts are real. The Karmis, they say, no, there's no such thing. No, of course there is. So many souls. Lord Shiva is the Bhutanath. He's the leader of all the ghosts and the hobgoblins. So who can say? He's very kind to those fallen souls like that. So you have to be a little cautious that don't become weak mentally. Become weak mentally, not just Maya will get you, but sometimes, ghostly haunted. You see it happen. You become so weak that the ghost can take over your body. But these are just some practical things. Prabhupada talked about these things as a matter of fact. He wasn't telling us stories to scare us. These are all there in the Shastra. It's quite clear. But some people don't accept. Just like they don't accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's also there in the Shastra. Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Pancharatrika, everything is there. And according to your capacity, intellectually, spiritually, with purification, you gradually have conviction. You've heard so much. But at a certain point, the realization takes place. Sarvasya chaham riddhi sanimishto. Krishna is kind as long as you're engaging with this satatam kirtan, yatantashta dridha vrataha, this determination. And how do you get this determination? It doesn't just come just by walking in the door of the temple. No, you have to feelingly chant, just like we're describing here. The japa mala we used to get when I first got my first set of japa mala. There was a little card attached, like and on the card it was a fold open card. It showed you how to finger the beads. And it said and it gave the mantra, it gave the phonetic pronunciation, because people don't always know. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And it said that one has to chant like a child crying for its mother. It said it right on the card. Anyone who walked in and got a set of beads, he got those instructions. So this is the chanting, and this is Prabhupada's words. He is the one, and therefore they transcribed it onto the card. One has to chant like a child crying for its mother. So that feelingly chanting, it's not mechanical. It's not like, I have to chant all my rounds. I have to do it in 5 minutes, I have to do it in 6 minutes, I have to do it in 7. No, that's there. But one has to chant attentively. He has to be hearing every word, every syllable. To that extent that you're endeavoring in that regard, then you'll find yourself secure in your understanding of the philosophy. It's not just conceptual. It's not just on the mental plane. Arava bhaktasya kuto mahaguna. So there's yasya devi parabhakti yata devi tataguru. All these things together. One who has implicit faith in the words of the spiritual master, All the imports of the Vedas are automatically revealed. That's a bold statement. That's a bold statement. So how do we know such things are true? We saw that Lord Chaitanya in his travels to South India. There was the Brahmin, totally illiterate, holding the Bhagavad Gita upside down. Upside down. But his spiritual master told him that he should read 18 chapters daily. And his spiritual master knew he's illiterate. And still he told him, you have to read 18 chapters. And so everyone in the village is making fun of him. But still he did it on the order of his spiritual master. Held the book, he turned the pages. And when Lord Chaitanya saw this person saying, he could see that he's holding the book upside down. So who does that? But he didn't go to criticize him. He said, Brahman, what are you reading? He says, my spiritual master instructed me that I should read Bhagavad Gita every day, but I'm illiterate. But therefore I'm holding the book. And Lord Chaitanya said, but what are you reading? What are you understanding? He said, I'm understanding how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He is the source of everything. Aham Shivasya Prabhavo Matak Sarvam Prabhatate. The source of everything. Itima Tva Bhajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samavata. He is on the chariot, driving the chariot for his friend Arjuna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this image in his mind is evoking the pure emotion of love of God. And so Lord Chaitanya declared, yes, you are reading Bhagavad Gita. You are actually reading Bhagavad Gita. Because you can understand how this relationship with Krishna and Arjuna, this is not just some happenstance that somebody decided that, that Sanjaya thought, well, let me write this down for posterity or because, no. All these things are specifically there for those who are faithful, who can understand that these two eternal personalities are speaking this same science as it was previously spoken, just for our benefit. And if we hear it in that mood and accept it that this is the Lord's mercy on us, then we get the full benefit, the same as Arjuna. That's what it's meant to do. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya declared, yes, this. And so we see so many instances like this, of those persons who, like the South Indian Brahmin, who couldn't afford anything, but he heard that he could worship the Lord in his mind. And so he would sit down and meditate, and he would bring all opulent articles and paraphernalia, everything in golden pots. He would do everything mentally, worship the Lord with great pomp and splendor, and cook everything in his mind in golden pots. Until one day when he thought he's about to make the offering, and he could feel, just like if you pick up the bowl, and you're making the plates, and you feel that the sweet rice is hot. That's not very nice. Sweet rice should be as cold as possible. And so he went to test it. He put his finger in there, and this is all happening in his mind. He felt that the sweet rice is hot, and it broke his meditation. And when he looked at his finger, he saw that it was burned. But how did that happen? So in Vaikuntha, the Supreme Lord saw this and appreciated everything. Who knows how long he was doing this? Maybe years, maybe days. But immediately he sent a Vaikuntha airplane to take that person back to the spiritual world. So such things are just a small indication of the potency of the Lord. These are not something unbelievable, unrealistic, mythology. Prabhupada would use that word. These things are not mythology. But to the extent that we accept them, our conviction, our realizations will expand. Otherwise, we're stuck on that mental platform. Arava Bhakta Shikuto Mahaguna. Manoratena Asati Daivatopi. Stuck on the mental platform. Manoratena, chariot of the mind. Right? Rat means car, chariot, and mano, mind. So manoratena. So sometimes when we might say, from in our vernacular, you have to get off the mental platform. That's what it means. You have to get off the mental platform. It means you have to get to the platform of action. Thinking, feeling, willing. So these things are there. That's what the only business of the mind. This thinking, feeling, and willing. Somebody's at the door. Sachin, maybe you want to check. But this thinking, feeling, willing can either be good or bad, right? If the mind is not your friend, then what are you meditating on? And then whatever you're meditating on, you're going to act on. So if you're thinking of nonsense, it's only a matter of time before you act on that nonsense. But if you're thinking, how can I serve Krishna? How can I do this service nicely? How can I do everything in relationship? Make the temple nice, make the Sankirtan nice, make the prasadam nice, and then you do it. So that's the perfect engagement of the mind, thinking, feeling, and willing, and action, right? So this is, so we have so much information that we can act on, and we have to choose which information is suitable for us according to time and circumstance. So that's why in the temple there's a structure where somebody engages you, because we're not ready for spontaneous devotional service. We don't have the capacity to engage ourselves fully. We just kind of like drift off, do our own thing. So that's dangerous. Idle mind is a devil's workshop. So therefore we have mentors, we have temple authorities, and their business is to engage everyone in Krishna service. There's a understanding that this is what the temple is for. This is the only reason, Prabhupada said, that we have temples, to engage people in devotional service. He said, give them a chance. I'm giving everyone a chance. So from all of your reading and all of your hearing, the takeaway is increasing your conviction. So maybe now you're at 20% conviction. And then you can go to 30, 40, 50. When you're 100% convinced, that's called surrender. That's called surrender. Until you're 100, as you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. It's proportional. Prabhupada said, if you're for me 200 rupees, then I'm for you 200 rupees. That's the story told about the men who are retired. They go to Vrindavan, big businessmen, all life they're making and accumulating wealth, lakhs and crores, right? Crorepati. But then they go to Vrindavan, they retire, says, whatever I have, my dear wife, my dear children, you can have it. But for me, just give me 200 rupees. So he's going to go serve Krishna, he's going to go retire. What's he going to do? That 2 crore is meant for Krishna. It's not meant for making the family comfortable in that respect. Not if you're trying to be surrendered. If you're just trying to be a Griha Maidi, then no problem. But then why go to Vrindavan? Just stay entangled, stay in the deep well. Right? Matirna Krishna Paratak Svatova, Mato Vipadyeti Grahavatanam, Adanta Gobi Avishitam Tamisham, Punak Punas Chavata Chavananam. It means chewing the chewed. You just stay there. You've already been chewing for 50 years, just stay there. But if you want to surrender, you want to go to Vrindavan and do service, then you have to bring everything to Krishna. Because it all belongs to him. Otherwise, then you're in that percentage category. And Krishna says, Prabhupada said, if you are for me 200 rupees, then I am for you 200 rupees. So this is a unfortunate situation if one finds himself in that he has to calculate how much should I give to Krishna. The idea is we give everything to Krishna. And you know what? Krishna will ananyas chintayantomam. He will give everything to you, whatever you need. Whatever you need, Krishna will provide. Haribo. Everything. But some people, they don't want to take that chance. They want to say, no, if I give everything to Krishna, then I'll have nothing left. What will I do? So we have to follow, so we have to take our lessons from the Goswamis. They were very opulent, very elevated, socially, financially, everything was theirs. Everything. But they gave it all up. And look, they got the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's our challenge. To that extent that we can surrender, we should try. What's the loss? No loss or diminution. A little advancement saves one from the greatest fear. But most people don't know what that fear is. You know, obviously the greatest fear of the materialist is that he's going to die and he has to leave everything behind. Can't take anything with him. So Krishna immediately relieves one from this fear as he's making this advancement, just to encourage him that just see. So already I've relieved you from material distress. That should be sufficient for you to understand that Krishna keeps his promises. Right? My devotee is never vanquished. Konteya putidani name bhakti pranasi. Never vanquished. But still we don't want to surrender. Somehow or other. We have to hold something back. So one should find out what is his propensity. He should figure out how he can do something nice for Krishna without any extra, without over endeavor. Nectar of Instruction is giving very clear that, what's that verse? Atyahara prayasascha pajapa niyamaga. So atyahara has a few different conceptions. Over endeavoring for that which is difficult to obtain, or not engaging oneself properly. So we have to be very cautious. At the same time, we have to make this gradual implementation. If you stop, if you're not trying to advance, then you're going to fall back. You have to keep advancing. It's like if you're on a hill, you have to keep going up, otherwise gravity will pull you down. And you see it happen. I have practical experience of being in a similar situation. You have to go, and sometimes you require help. So there are those who are there to give you a helping hand. So that's the Mahajans. So we have so much facility in the form of assistance from our parampara that there's no excuse. And one could always find the right innovation for his particular situation. And what he will respond to, what his mind will respond to, what he will feel comfortable doing. And then when he's comfortable with that, Krishna will say, okay, now here's the next level. Here's the next level. And we have to be very, how can you say, sincere. That's like the antenna on a radio. Nobody uses radios anymore. It's all the Wi-Fi signal. But in India, in the early days, there was no such thing. We used to have these little shortwave radios. You could listen to BBC or Voice of America. You get some news because, you know, you're in one particular place. Maybe you're only going to get propaganda. So you want to get an alternate source of information. So you have to adjust the antenna. You have to pull it up. You have to rotate it. You have to angle it. So our sincerity is like that. And we want to pick up these signals from Krishna. You want to get this information in the heart. He's there, but you have to pull up that antenna. You have to get your sincerity synchronized with Krishna. It's not what I think is sincerity. You know, I think I'm being sincere. I think I'm doing enough. But that's where sincerity is that, you get an opportunity to do something which is, outside your normal comfort zone, and you surrender to it. And then Krishna rewards you, by this realization. That's how it works. Nothing complicated, nothing you don't have to make it up, you don't have to embellish it, you don't have to put it in fancy language. Everything is very clear. Nectar devotion, nectar of instruction, the Bhagavad Gita, everything, those together give you your instruction manual for devotional life. Everything else is very nice. We love to read Srimad Bhagavatam. Shrinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. This hearing with a pure heart. Where do I get that pure heart? Which store do I go to get pure heart? So that comes from following the basics. Prabhupada said, all the little rules and regulations. The devotee asked Prabhupada one time. It wasn't the answer he was expecting. He said, how do I make advancement in spiritual life? And maybe I said chant 64 rounds or, stand on your head in the corner. No, he said, by following all the little rules and regulations. Because that will crystallize these concepts in your mind. Just like when you're making cement. Just a powder. But then you add water and you stir it, and all of a sudden it becomes rock hard. So we're taking these different ingredients, we're putting them together, and we're stirring them in the fire of Sankirtan. By hearing, by chanting, by distributing, so that, and then it becomes a solid foundation. Otherwise it just becomes weak. If you use the wrong proportions, you get mud. You get what's called slurry. It's not useful for anything. Can't build a building with it. You have to throw it away. So everything has to be in the proper proportions. So that we'll hear from our authorities. They'll tell us, yes, you need to do more. I don't see that you're sufficiently engaged. I see you're spacing out. Right? Because you're not doing this self-examination. You're not looking in the mirror and saying, you're spacing out. You should, perhaps. Think, I'm not doing enough. I can do more. That's what these bodies are for, especially in our youth. Shishivada Govinda Dev Ki. Youth, we can do more. So we have to think like that. What more can I do for you? From this day forward, I fully surrender. That's our mantra. From this day forward, I fully surrender. So if one is thinking like that, if he's actually articulating that, then gradually he will come up to that level. He will say, yes, am I fully surrendered? Have I done what I'm supposed to do? So we don't have to. Everything is very clear. What's that verse? No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone his enemy or friend. But he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have. What does that mean, destroys those who have? In the Sri Upanishad, there's the killer of the soul. What does that mean? Who's the killer of the soul? Us. Nobody else can kill your soul. It can't be it can't be wet, it can't be burnt, it can't be dried. It's indestructible. It's not slain when the body is slain. So who is this hunter? Who is this killer of the soul? It's us. So we have to be careful. No one else can destroy the soul, but we can destroy the soul's onward progress on the path to spiritual life, back home, back to Godhead. So that's why we don't want to be we don't want to be our worst enemy, a soul killer. Obviously, we should never assist anyone else in committing spiritual suicide as well. That's why we try to give everyone the opportunity to reveal one's mind so that we can understand what is a person, what is he thinking, what is he doing, what do they say, where is he at. We have to have an automatic doorbell, bing, and a remote so we can see, is that person qualified to come in the temple? That's why we need a reception. There should be somebody sitting at the desk listening to class. So can we arrange that? Because you can put it right on the TV and you can listen to class. And then you don't have to interrupt the class getting up and down. Someone can see, oh, here's that person who was here yesterday, and I don't think we're going to let him in today. So in any case, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Shivara Govinda Dev ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brinda ki, Jai Prabhupada. Sunday is such a big day, right? So, Sunday markets and cleaning. I cleaned the countertop also. It was sticky with tea. Oh my goodness. One where they were serving.
Oh, here.